So here we go with my It review. Now, I already did a review of the 1990s miniseries, but I have the trailer for the 1990s miniseries because you can't talk about this film unless I talk about the original miniseries, because you gotta do the inevitable comparison. So, without much ado, this is just a preamble. Basically, this film is going to this review is primarily going to focus on the good, the bad, and the ugly, all that fun stuff. And so, with that being said, let's get down into it. We'll talk about the good, the bad, the ugly after the cut. So here's the good. The film is a wonderful modern retelling of the It franchise, of the It story, all that fun stuff. Now, it kind of basically is very, how can I put this? It's very well done. It's a well told story. It has really interesting, well made characters. It's and its strength is that it is a higher budget modern retelling of the It story in theatrical form. But that's also a problem later on. But that's neither here nor there. Basically, the movie is essentially about a group of friends who decide to face off against this evil creature that basically exists in Derry, Maine. And basically these group of six kids basically come together to fight against this evil. Oh, should I say 7? Okay, these 7 kids come together to fight against this evil. And it all starts off with our main character, Bill Denbrough. Basically, he's homesick, and he essentially makes a wax boat for his young brother, Georgie. Georgie then goes outside and he meets It in the gutter. In the storm gutter, and he has his arm ripped off, and he's pulled into the sewer and murdered. And that's where shit jumps off. Eventually, through happenstance through the movie, they discover that every 27 to 30 years, It awakens, kills a lot of people, and then leaves. But this time, these kids decide, you know what, we aren't gonna have this shit anymore. We're gonna just take the fight to It. And that's where the movie, that's the general story. Now, the updates is that the original story took place in the 50s. This one takes place in 1984, 87, around there. And basically, it's set to a modern time. This is a good and bad thing. I won't go into the bad because this is the good. So, good. The movie is, like I said, the chemistry between the young kids is palpable. You really feel it. You really feel like these kids are friends. Just a word of warning, if young kids cursing offends you, then don't watch this film. Also, no, that's basically it. If young kids offend you, don't watch this film. If jump scares piss you off, you're not going to enjoy this film as much as maybe the 1990 series, but they run very parallel to one another. So basically, yeah, the characters have wonderful chemistry. The story is relatively well told. There are some plot holes, but I'll get into that in the bad after the cut. So basically, overall, the film is relatively good. The characters are good. The music is good. They get the time period right. It feels very on point. Like I said, the negatives I'll get into after the cut, but overall, relatively well done. So, yeah. So let's get into the bad after the cut. So here's the bad. This film, in its impetus to make a more modern retelling of the story, kind of misses some of the points of it. The terrifying thing about it is that, at least, from the books and everything like that, is that it literally picks apart these kids with their worst fear. That is the terrifying thing about Pennywise the Clown. That's what makes him such a enduring villain, if you will. Such a great villain. Tim Curry was able to really pull this out. Not so much with the new guy. I'll show you his pick later on in this review. So, like this Pennywise is more like, okay, this is a predator. Whereas Tim Curry's Pennywise was almost like a charming type of thing going on. Kind of, this is a goofy bastard. Until he wasn't, and that turn was like, oh shit. This Bill Skarsgård's Pennywise is like, oh shit, something's wrong with this dude. Something's totally wrong with this dude. Like, the kids who were like charmed by this motherfucker, you really just, no, you did not know. You really did not know what was going on. And so that kind of really that kind of hurts the movie a little bit. Also, because at the end they want to have this big kind of everything just kind of come together in this massive rush. They kind of rush through certain characters. Like certain characters, things happen and you're like, okay, why did this happen? They don't tell you anything, and that kind of bothers me. Another thing is that essentially things kind of fall apart a little bit. Here's Bill Skarsgård, and here's his Pennywise, which, like I said, looks a little like literally something looks off about this dude anyway. This is Tim Curry's Pennywise. Like, he looks like a drunk ass clown maintaining. It's like almost not scary until he finally snaps on people. But anyway, the bad is that the film kind of it does some things in order to get to the end that kind of falls apart a little bit. Like, Mike Hanlon isn't very well explained. Ben, they call him Tits in the film because he's kind of fat. Like, you never know why what his fear is, how Pennywise is going to play on his fear, because they don't tell you. Like, they bring it in towards the end of the movie. There was no build up for why he's afraid of that, whatever. So, the ugly after the cut. So obviously we're at the end of our review, and so it's time to get to the ugly. Now, the ugly of the film is this. Basically, if you are a fan of the novel, this film kind of cheapens that a little bit. If you wanted to see a bigger budget update to the 1990s film, then this is what you're looking for. However, this film and the need to become more acceptable to, Joe Blow average consumer kind of loses a little bit of its, of the psychological horror that it had, in the 90s, to be more of a jump scare thriller horror now. Which, it is what it is. So, overall, this film is better than the 1990s original in terms of budget, but when it comes to atmosphere and character build-up and all that type of stuff, and details, it doesn't hold a candle, which is sad because this film is longer than part 1 of the TV series, which was 2 hours. This film is like 2 hours and 15 minutes, 2 hours and 20, 2 hours and 15. No, it's 2 hours and a half, and yet it has less character development for the characters than the one now. So with that being said, I say watch it if you want to watch a general thriller. I look forward to the second film in the series. So with that being said, that's the end of the video. Enjoy the review. Stay tuned for Saturday's Sci-Fi Power Hour, focusing on Star Wars at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and Sundays BS Busters at 7 to 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. With that being said, peace.